We've made it to another Friday, and well, today is going to be a little bit of a short and sweet type of episode because there's not that much going on with the Florida Panthers, whether it is this day in Florida Panthers history or just in general. So we'll keep it sweet here on this Friday because, well, it's almost the weekend. We almost made it to another weekend. What's up, Florida Panthers Daily? I'm AJ Sheridan. Social medias are AJ Sheridan Radio. If it's your first time watching here on Florida Panthers Daily, we go every single day, Monday through Friday, right here, part of the Fan Arch community. It does a lot for us. If you can go ahead, that subscribe button down below. If you're watching on Spotify, Apple Music, 5-star reviews, those do us a lot of good as we move closer to the NHL drafts, and that's why today's going to be a little shorter than it usually is here on Florida Panthers Daily because we got the draft coming up halfway soon. We're into the playoffs. Usually the Panthers are focused on the playoffs and not the NHL draft. And next week is when we really dig in and dive into some of the prospects. We're going to go one prospect from number 1 to number 10 over the next 2 weeks, and we're going to give you the background. We're going to say, how can the Panthers fit with this guy? How can this guy fit on the Panthers? Will he be on the board when the Panthers get to their selection at 9th overall? Will the Panthers hold on to that 9th selection in general? So as we move to the next few weeks, we're really going to dive into the NHL draft here on Florida Panthers Daily. But as for today, we've been doing this day in Florida Panthers history for the last few weeks now, and I hope you're enjoying it. If you're not, let me know in the comments down below, because I really enjoy it. And today's this day in Florida Panthers history. It's a day you really enjoy. And that's why we're doing this segment, because the last 3 years, there were so many good memories. And I've said that when I introduce this segment every single day. It has the smile on my face because you think about all the pain we went through to get to the reward of these last 3 years. And well, when I say the last 3 years, today in Florida Panthers history on May 8th, this year it falls on a Friday, so that makes me smile a little bit more too. The Panthers dominated the Boston Bruins. And I mean dominated. You see the caption down below. 148 penalty minutes were in this game 2 years ago inside Emirates Bank Arena. The Panthers would end up winning this one 6-1. Alexander Barkov would score twice. The Panthers would more than double the shots on goal from the Boston Bruins. It was 33-15. But to me, this is what playoff hockey is all about. This is when I knew the Paul Maurice identity in this new Florida Panthers team was for real. 65 hits for the Florida Panthers. And don't get me wrong, the Boston Bruins answered with 60 of their own. The penalty minutes were 77 for the Bruins to 71 for the Florida Panthers. That is when I tell people the NHL playoffs, the Stanley Cup playoffs, are the best sporting event in all of professional sports because of that reason right there. In what other sport do you get to say, oh, this game's over, let's go fight someone? Let's get this guy ejected. Like, he said something to me in the second period. He took maybe a little bit of a cheap shot. This game was physical throughout. You remember the Bruins took game 1. We talked about that here on Florida Panthers Daily in this day in Florida Panthers history a few days ago on May 6th. But as we sit here on May 8th, the Panthers answered. They take a 5-1 loss, and they turn it into a 6-1 victory. Charlie Coyle got on the board early for the Boston Bruins in the first period. Then the Panthers would answer with 3 of their own in the second period. Barkov got his first of the game. Forsling got one with 2 seconds left in the second period, and that's when he kind of felt like, oh, this game's over. And it was 3-1 going to the dressing rooms, heading to the third intermission, and then a minute in, Eetu Luostarinen, he lit the lamp, and at that point, I was like, this game could get a little sloppy, but the Bruins were still hanging around. Alexander Barkov, though, then put the game away on the power play halfway through the third period, made it 5-1. And at this point, you knew it was going to get ugly. Montour tossed in a shorthanded goal of his own about a minute and a half after Alexander Barkov's goal, and that's when the penalties just started piling up. The fight started happening down inside Emirates Bank Arena, but it set the tone for the rest. Sorry, I had to sneeze. It set the tone for the rest of the series because the Panthers would go on to win Game 3 and Game 4. We'll talk about that here on Florida Panthers Daily on this day in Panthers history as we move forward. But this was the game when I finally realized this Panther team is, again, legit contenders. This was the game. I remember looking at my dad and I said, this identity, this team actually has something. The Panthers on this day in Florida Panthers history, here on Friday, May 8th, it wasn't a Friday a few years ago, they beat the Boston Bruins 6-1, and it was the start of a very fun period if you are a Florida Panthers fan. But if you're not a Florida Panthers fan, you're tuned in here to Florida Panthers Daily because you live in South Florida and you want to know what's going on with the Cats. Well, this weekend, it's the Air Show down in Fort Lauderdale. It's a pretty cool event if you've never been out to it. And while Matthew Tkachuk, he will be in a fighter jet at the Air Show. And he says after winning the gold medal, it is something that is very special to him. It's something that he didn't think he would ever get the chance to do. And not to mention, we're going to get back to that in just a second. But Matthew Tkachuk also, he said that he's heading to Switzerland for the 2026 World Hockey Championships. He was on the Pat McAfee show yesterday. He said, I'm still about having that feeling. And that's what it's all about. You knew he loved Team USA. You knew he represented the Stars and Stripes better than ever. And he will be flying, like I said, with the U.S. Air Force, the Thunderbirds, at the Air Show in support of the Air Force. He's obviously, you saw him when he went to the White House a few times, but if you've been to the Air Show, it's a cool experience. He's going to serve as a civilian passenger. He'll be in the back seat of a Thunderbird F-16 Fighting Falcon, and that is happening today. So if you've ever been to the Air Force's Hometown Heroes program, he will be doing that, and he'll be doing it. It's the Air Show's Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. He will be in the back seat of the plane today. But if you've never seen the Thunderbirds and you live down in South Florida, this is a pretty cool event. And sure, you might not be able to see Matthew as he's sitting in the back seat of the fighter jet, but it is worth to at least say, you can at least say you saw him. You saw him at a parade a few years ago, and then now you can see him in the Air Show today. If you're from South Florida, you know how special that this event is, and it is pretty cool that the Panthers leader, I'm not going to say the captain because that's Sasha Barkov, but the leader will be taking part in the South Florida culture. And like I said, that game a few years ago set the culture. And now the culture is all about South Florida. They love South Florida. They love being down there. Matthew Tkachuk taking full advantage of that. Then speaking of the NHL playoffs and a team that the Panthers have defeated the last few seasons, the Carolina Hurricanes. They will not lose a game this postseason. 7-0 now as they took down the Philadelphia Flyers last night 4-1. Hurricanes jumped ahead early. They went to the intermission up 1-0. This might be the year. I have a lot of friends from Raleigh. I have a lot of family there. My brother went to NC State. Their basketball team plays in the same arena as the Carolina Hurricanes. So I don't want to say I'm rooting for them. This just might be the year for the Carolina Hurricanes. They look dang good. And I don't know if they can beat the Avalanche if it does end up being a Carolina-Colorado final. But man, they got to be really happy that they do not have to face the Florida Panthers in the Eastern Conference Finals. And then a few nights ago, I didn't get to talk to you because I recorded this before the puck dropped, but the Ducks took down the Knights 3-1. They even up the series as they head back to Anaheim over the weekend. And we got a fun weekend of hockey in store for us in the NHL playoffs because here on Florida Panthers Daily, I like to keep you updated on the NHL playoffs. And tonight, you got the Canadiens and the Sabres Game 2 in Buffalo. That place will be rocking. You got Game 3 of that series I just mentioned in Anaheim, the Knights and the Ducks. Saturday, you got the Carolina Hurricanes going for the sweep. You got the team I said I think they'll meet in the Stanley Cup Finals, the Avalanche, going on the road to Minnesota with a 2-0 series lead in that one. And then on Sunday, you got the same matchups we have tonight. The Sabres-Canadiens, that will shift over to Montreal. And then you have Game 4 between the Knights and the Ducks. Let me give you a little best bet here as we round out this week on Florida Panthers Daily. Again, we go every single day, Monday through Friday. Subscribe down below. Leave your comments. Let me know if I lose a bet and you tailed it. Well, I'm sorry, but that's what the comments are for. You let me hear it. Tonight, you got the money line at minus 135. You got the cheapest ticket in the building going for just under $300. And I'm not going to fade that atmosphere, but I'm also not going to touch that game at all. And I'm not going to touch the Knights-Ducks game we got tonight. But the game I will touch is the Minnesota Wild. They're at plus 110 tomorrow night, and that is my best bet. Again, cheapest ticket there going for around $250 to get in that arena. The place will be rocking. The Minnesota Wild need to get a win at home. The Flyers weren't able to do it, which makes me know that the Minnesota Wild will do it. That is my best bet of the day. We'll be back on Monday. Subscribe down below, Panthers fans. We go every single day, Monday through Friday. And until Monday, let's go Cats.